Hi, my name is William Hayward, and my knowledge question is how can dogmatism be used to form policy? So I formed this knowledge question as I saw the knowledge issue of dogmatism being used on both sides of the argument in my real-life situation, this didn't work as they were both portraying their opinions as fact, and these didn't work together as they were opposing. So moving on to other knowledge issues which I came up with during this time, I came up with what is the impact of history upon identity, and what is the role of emotion in forming opinion. And I defined identity as the set of characteristics by which a person or thing is distinct and recognizable, even though it's very difficult to define identity as everyone has a different identity, and people can also take their identity from different sources such as their religion, their nation, their ideology, and their history. And I also wanted to talk about the difference between a nation and a state. A state is just an area which is controlled by one authority, whereas a nation shares similar beliefs and other things, so there's a difference there. Coming on to my real-life situation, which was Catalonia. The parliament in Catalonia has voted narrowly to sue for independence with the Spanish government, and this was partly caused by a paradigm shift in this area, caused by Scotland suing for independence. Even though they weren't successful, it showed that you could rally support and sue as an independent nation, so Catalonia is following suit in this way. In terms of my knowledge question, how can dogmatism be used to form policy? I then implemented it into other real-life situations where I found that dogmatism was prevalent, and these were elections not being representative of the public, government shutdowns in the United States, and the incapacity of coalition governments to rule because of their lack of compromise. And how I came up with my knowledge issue from this was that there were many biased claims from both sides, as this is a slightly acrimonious issue, so most of the sides were claiming things which were unfounded, which was dogmatism. And they also used statistics to prove these things, however I found flaws in these statistics. So moving on to the knowledge claims which can be found in this real-life situation. People in Catalonia identify as Catalan over Spanish. These are my first-order claims. Catalonia deserves to be an independent nation, does not deserve to be an independent nation, it has no right to be, and Catalonia is better off without the rest of Spain. I then drew my areas of knowledge out of this, and I turned them into second-order claims. How can a nation verify that it has changed its identity, and the economic benefits of independence verify Catalan independence? So the different perspectives on the issue come from the Catalan independence seekers and the Spanish nationalists who wish for Catalonia to remain part of Spain. The claim is that people in Catalonia identify as Catalan over Spanish. This is a definitely subjective viewpoint, however it's not negative that it's subjective, because it comes from identity, it comes from personal knowledge, and this has to be a subjective claim. It couldn't be made objectively. Whereas the Spanish nationalists claiming that Catalonia has been part of Spain for centuries and has no right to secede is based upon the assumption, that people in Catalonia identify as Spanish over Catalonian. And I also commented on how, even though this is shared knowledge, it is a group of people, a large group of people in Catalonia rising up to find independence, it is also heavily founded in personal knowledge, which interested me as sometimes there's not a huge difference between personal and shared knowledge. So moving on to dogmatism in total, I talked about the uncertainty of dogmatism, as even though it claims to be certain, it claims that you cannot go against what is the claims made by dogmatism. It's also incredibly uncertain, as it does not test itself. I defined dogmatism as the tendency to lay down principles as incontrovertibly true without consideration of evidence or the opinion of others. And through my real-life situation, I became aware that dogmatism is used heavily throughout all of politics, as it is a good way of persuading people of your opinions, as you are claiming them as fact and stating that they are true and cannot be changed. And I found a quotation from John F. Kennedy, which is, "Too often we hold fast to the cliches of our forebears, We subject all facts to a prefabricated set of interpretations. We enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought, showing how there is a disregard through dogmatism for others' personal knowledge and only considering your own personal knowledge, and that dogmatism hinders political progress in the future. I then related dogmatism back to the real-life situation, showing how they are making claims on both sides of the argument which cannot work together, as if they are stated as fact. They don't make sense together because they're completely different. And I wanted to comment that the tendency to use dogmatism is universal, especially in the sphere of politics. So it's difficult to belittle people's argument as they're using dogmatism, as it is almost universal and used by both sides. And the first way of knowing which I identified was that of emotion, which comes heavily from the idea of identity. And it surprised me that emotion was more prevalent than reason in this argument, as most of the time reason is used as a higher form of gathering knowledge than emotion, but in this scenario it's actually the other way around, that emotion is the key way of knowing. And there's a role when responding to history, which is the area of knowledge which I will get into later, that the people in Catalonia and throughout Spain feel an emotional connection to those who fought in the Spanish War, which I'll get onto. And there is a role when responding to politics that they feel an emotional connection to the leaders of their regions and their areas. And then the way of knowing of reason, I question what are the justifications used in this debate, and there are justifications of the economic benefits for both sides, and the implications that other regions will follow, and the use of statistics. And this brought the knowledge question which I came up with. To what extent is knowledge validated by reason considered to be superior than knowledge validated by emotion? And then I identified the use of emotion and reason as ways of knowing in this real-life situation. So the emotional connection to the victims of the Civil War, especially the Battle of Ebro, where people in Catalonia were fighting to maintain independence from the Franco regime at that time. So, and then I identified that patriotism is incredibly important in this, and this came from a quote that I found: "We are not Spaniards, we have a different culture, different language, different attitude," says lung surgeon Christian Domingo. We're different people. So I thought that this was prevalent, as this is a normal person from Catalonia who's just educated and feels this way. But there are also people in Spain who feel patriotism towards Spain, and that Catalonia leaving would be a terrible thing to happen. And then in terms of reason, the economic benefits, I found some statistics that 22% of Catalonia is unemployed, compared to an unemployment rate of 24.4% in the rest of Spain. And I questioned the validity of these statistics.